first of all, let's talk about the Grand Chess Tour and everything is happening now in Bucharest. It's been since 2019 that the Grand Chess Tour came in Bucharest for the first time. So how did you think about Bucharest, and what are the assets of Bucharest for getting such strong players every year here?
The number one condition for any major event is to find a sponsor.
Yes.
Someone in an individual or an organization that is willing to support chess, the organization that is looking for chess as a potential asset for promotion. And here we have Superbet. It's happened when I was in Bucharest at one of the events before the Grand Chess Tour, I think in 2017. I'm not sure, because anything that happened before COVID is a little bit, just it's now blurry. So that's a 17, probably 2017. So I had an event here and then just met before I left with Sasha Dragic at dinner. I think it was Marriott Hotel. I think and found out that he was a chess player and a big fan, and it was the beginning of the relations. I think then I came later to talk to the Superbet team. Just wasn't an event, and Superbet expressed interest in exploring the field of chess competitions. And Grand Chess Tour always looked for a strong partner in Europe, because our main backer is Rex Sinfield. He's an American billionaire from Missouri, from St. Louis, who has been supporting chess for the last 15 years and built the most impressive chess operation in the United States. So people always joke that St. Louis is probably chess capital of the world, definitely of the United States. Yeah, but it seems now that Bucharest is competing with St. Louis. Yeah, it's yes. And while we had a very strong footing in St. Louis, there was always challenge to find the same partner in Europe. We played in various places. We played in Oslo. We played the Grand Chess Tour in Paris, in London. So as you know, Grand Chess Tour moved in Europe for many cities. But now it's a very successful cooperation. We have American side, and in Europe is Superbet tournaments. Yes, because they expanded with the operation of Superbet business operation, which by the way shows that it's connected to the business interest. It's not just a chess fan who just who could be nostalgic about his chess days and remembers Kasparov as a world champion. No, it's a combination of two. Yes, of course, we are very good friends with really good friends with Sasha Dragic and with Augusto Dragic, but there's also Superbet business engagement in various countries. So that's why we moved to Warsaw and to Zagreb. Yes. So and now we have these three events, but of course Bucharest is the hub of chess. Yeah, but it's also hub for Superbet. Yes, but it's it's an amazing development in Eastern Europe, where chess always was strong, but due to the lack of sponsorship, never had the same kind of top competitions. And now it's clear that it's on the European continent. These three tournaments, Bucharest, Warsaw, and Zagreb, they represent something that I've been dreaming for a long time. So the professional network of competitions, and I believe that we probably will look for some expansion alongside with the expansion of Superbet businesses. So this is it's amazing, and of course, interestingly enough, also since I visit Bucharest now every year, so it's to see that also the city is getting more dynamic because there's more business here. This. So it's not just one generous donor who just wants to support his beloved game, but it's also it also coincides with the development of the country, and Bucharest is getting more and more vibrant with business, especially IT businesses. So again, I feel very comfortable here, and that's why every year, you know, I think I'm back, and I could see that the organizers, they're trying to be even more creative. So that's and it's not just my, you know, impressions. I could look at the faces of my young colleagues, and they are also, oh yeah, that's the thrill, because again, it's about respect for the game, and it's just they try. There are many draws here, but you cannot blame them for not trying. So it shows that, you know, they understand that they have to demonstrate the best of their abilities to be on par with organizers.
This year's event probably has the strongest field ever, with the world champion now being the winner.
Yeah, without Magnus, you know, on the field, you can argue, but if you talk about the Grand Chess Tour as a series, yes, absolutely, yeah. Because Magnus will play in two rapid tournaments in Zagreb and Warsaw, yeah.
Well, okay, everybody in Bucharest and in Romania would love to see, maybe we hope that maybe one day Magnus will be here.
I think it's, yes.
Is it a chance?
Look, I'm not responsible for Magnus' decisions.
Yes.
So it seems to me Magnus now has a little appetite to play classical chess. There's nothing, you know, about Bucharest. It's about his decision now that do not play classical chess.
Actually, he said that he on a tweet last night. He said that he's wondering how good at classical chess he is now.
Look,
so
it's again, key is we have to build, you know, we had to build a strong network of professional competitions. Clearly now the Grand Chess Tour is the, you know, professional chess network that we dreamt for a long time. So that's why, you know, I see no reasons for Magnus to ignore Bucharest next year, because we are going to play here next year, and so it seems that the triple events, Bucharest, Warsaw, Zagreb, will be here for quite a while.
Sounds great.
Do you think Nepo and Ding are favorites in this tournament because they are coming with a superior preparation from the World Championship, or they are pretty tired and this may be a factor?
The thing that is now is looking at them, you know, it's my impression. So I think this is Nepo. Nepo is more motivated. Yeah, Ding is carrying such a huge weight on his shoulders, and I think I wouldn't say uncomfortable, but I think he's puzzled, because the moment you say world champion, he looks around. Are you talking to me? So I think he's you know, bewildered even, you know, by the fact that he is the world champion, and I do not doubt that he'll try his best, but I think psychologically, you know, it's very difficult. I mean, he might be not devastated, but definitely somehow I don't know, puzzled by his by the power of the title. So while Nepo, you can see, I mean, he's definitely. It doesn't mean that he's a favorite, because look, there are many strong players here. Right? This is almost everybody, I mean, can win the tournament. So you have, you know, out of 10 players, you know, you probably have, you know, I don't know, it's literally almost everybody can win. It's such a even field of the players. But definitely Nepo is very motivated. I'm sure that's to prove that, you know, that's his failure in Astana was accidental.
Speaking of Ding and this passing from Magnus to Ding, now this might be a little problem for the future of chess, and I'm thinking about, okay, Magnus being the outspoken guy, always on the internet and everything, speaking with everybody. While Ding, it's not a person that, okay, he doesn't speak English very good.
But he's also Chinese, don't forget.
Yes.
That's a different story. So
is this a problem for chess as attracting people? Magnus was he brought something new. he brought something new to the idea of chess. Like, okay, is this guy? He's a nice guy. He has all this. It's not the typical world champion Magnus.
Yeah, but you're talking Kasparov. I mean, it's very odd to just to hear, there's this kind of comment. So I was also quite outspoken and
Yes,
did a lot
yes,
of promotion.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, this is the no. Magnus was phenomenal representative of the game of chess. Absolutely phenomenal. So and you can not underestimate his contribution to the promotion of the game of chess. There's no doubt that Dink is not from the same league for many reasons. Starting from character and moving to the fact that he is still, he's not just Chinese. He is the citizen of China, which means that his ability to speak, is dramatically limited by all the factors that we don't have to mention. So that's why you don't expect Dink to do the same kind of promotion. But look. We are in a very odd situation because when we all understand that Magnus is the strongest player, but due to his decision, Dink is a world champion. So while this situation is probably not ideal for chess, but you have to deal with this situation. So what can you do? So and I wouldn't be too again it's just too concerned about it because. But chess is, Magnus is still there. I mean, it's whether he has an official title or not, he's still there. And
is he playing classical?
We don't know. Yes, we don't. But he's still there playing other games. And today it's about tweets. It's about your appearances.
Yes.
Obviously, his influence on the game of chess will be much less because he's no longer carrying the power of the title. But again, I always believe that chess finds its way, mysterious way to stay on the top of people's mind. And I think now we reached a point where so many people follow chess around the world that, whether it's Dink or Nepo, it's not as powerful as Magnus, but still we are fine. And,
speaking about Nepo, his play looks phenomenal for me. Like he played yesterday this fantastic game against Bogdan Deac, but he looks to play so good. Yet sometimes, like it happened in the match against Dink, like it happened in the game against Magnus that he was playing some awful moves, but against Dink playing almost perfect, and yet sometimes playing some very very odd moves like that F5, let's say in game 12. Against Dink.
It's that's the game 12. It's quite a show for the World Championship match because there were many games in the World Championship matches. My match with Karpov included, where mistakes were made and the game was lost due to one mistake. But I cannot recall a game where the evaluation changed dramatically. I think 4 times. So in 12 games, 12 games, yes. When it's like pendulum, boom, boom. So obviously there was a huge pressure on both players. So that's they made, not just mistakes. There were big blunders, just as the game again moved, one way to another. Then Nepo obviously had an initiative, it's clear initiative. It's like in tennis, he had a very powerful serve, he rushed to the net and he kept dominating. He kept much better. Dink tried to avoid preparation.
2 candidates winning and preparing.
But he had a very strong team. Yes. Obviously, you could see that there was a strong Russian contingent working with Nepo. He prepared for Magnus. Actually, he was well prepared to Magnus. The match was, people say that he lost very badly, but it was only one game 6, that decided everything. It was a very, very tough match. I think actually Magnus after this match decided that it probably enough. Sure he won handily. It's crushed him at the end. But first 5 games were draws. And game 6 was very, very, at one point Nepo missed, if not a win, but he could be much better. I think taking this pawn on before.
Yes, that was a simple.
Just simply taking the pawn. Yes, it's in game 6, and match could go either way. And I think Nepo is I think he's quite an emotional player. Yeah, and it's not, but it's not just emotional, is it? Because I was also emotional, but I could stay under pressure just for a very long time. So it's being emotional and very vulnerable to your emotions. So my emotions never dominated I could demonstrate emotions, but it's not accidental that I beat Karpov in every decisive game. So I won. So and Nepo, when he reaches the point, I mean, he always loses decisive games. So it means that there's something is
such a strong player though.
We had many great players. I mean, Paul Keres, for instance. So there's always, Victor Korchnoi. There's always something is missing. We don't know exactly what is missing, but clearly Nepo is one of the players. I mean, he would be in the category of Korchnoi, Keres, phenomenal players that are missing just something, just a little tiny bit, just to move from a simply great player to the place where there's only one.
You said about Nepo that you said in a tweet that maybe it was the God Chesov that didn't want to was it that?
Look, no, I think it's we can't ignore harsh realities, actually tragic realities of these days, look, there was a kind of irony, I wouldn't say humor, but when things happen like in the game 12, you look for some higher intervention, and naturally we are at the point now where I think it's just for Russian winning the event would be unfair for the victims of this horrible war.
Did you enjoy Queen's Gambit, the TV series, and what do you think was the role in promoting the chess?
I mean, what do you mean enjoy? I was a main consultant. I don't know.
If you enjoy the series, if you like.
Yeah, as someone who was a main consultant of the event, so it's an odd question. Yeah, I have to say that when I agreed, to work with them, so basically turning down Scott Frank's proposal to play Borgov, because that was original, so that's how it started. But I thought I would have no time to spend 3-4 months. But that was the beginning, and I suggested I would be a consultant. So I like the idea of Netflix doing a series. By the way, I like the book because I read Walter Tevis' book. He's a great writer, actually. Several of his books became Hollywood thrillers, like the Hustler and Color of Money. Just two famous movies with Paul Newman. And a couple of others, and I wanted to see, what would be the response, but there was zero expectations of this kind of success. I spoke to Scott a couple of weeks before the release, because unfortunately there were a few moments there that where the production, they made some couple of, it's not blunders, but there's some inaccuracies there, and I was pretty just disappointed by the one diagram on this demonstration board, this last game, because I invented games. I mean, this is everything that just was on the top, including the last game. It was my invention. So I said that my role would be to guarantee that the chess would look perfect. So it would be real chess, which, by the way, it was. Yeah, and Scott was very happy that he did it, but again, no expectations of this phenomenal success. I think COVID helped, but it was released before COVID, before this. And I think it picked up. There's some sort of people's desire to actually to look for I mean, this kind of a story had all the components. I don't understand what are these components, how it works, because it is success of any movie or series is mystery. Yeah, you can have every ingredient, but it just doesn't work. I mean, for instance, you had Casablanca, so this is one of the greatest movies, and it just basically shut in a couple of rooms. So here's also it's not something that you expect to carry the day and just to strike people's imagination. I mean, you have an orphan orphan girl from Kentucky, God forbid. So, but, it had this, just this, and I'm very, very proud that, I made few, it's important, additions to the book, about the KGB agents there and and the way she played. So this is, and Borgov, the Polish actor, you spoke to him. He watched, he watched hours of me playing. So because he wanted to look like Kasparov. So again, it was phenomenal contribution to the game of chess. So there's people still talking about it. And I remember during COVID, I had many Zoom events and was not a single Zoom event without, no matter, it's business, it's whatever, this is military, some academies. Everybody won't talk about, just at one point, about Queen's Gambit.
Speaking about going to Putin's problem again. You said a few times before that the way to stop Putin is to freeze his accounts and to leave him without money, yet still this is quite not happening. And what do you think about the real contribution of the West? Is it enough to stop Putin at this point?
Yeah, but we cannot simply take my statements and comments out of context. So something that would be enough to stop Putin 15 years ago, it's not going to work now. It's like, going back to the 1930s or the 20s of just the last century. So you could have stopped Hitler in 33 or 34 or 35, but it's not. But different measures were required in 37 or 38, and of course in 39. So same with Putin. So limiting his access to these funds and definitely looking at his aggressive actions 15 years ago and recognizing that he was a threat. Could be far more effective. Even, imposing partially these sanctions after annexation of Crimea and telling him, not just by words, but by action, that there would be a cost for his operation, for his aggressive actions, might have saved Ukraine from this tragedy. Again, might have saved. I don't know whether it would be that effective, but this is something that the West had to show. The problem is that over 23 years of Putin's rule, the free world showed, 22, because this is now, of course, this is different. But up to February 24th, 2022, the free world showed little of any appetite to recognize that it was a threat. My first article about Putin and potential threat dated January 4, 2001. Mm-hmm. So just because I looked at the KGB guy just taking over, saying openly what he believed, would be the right way for Russia to move forward. He didn't have power to carry it, but I was concerned. I was terrified by the fact that he was there. Mm-hmm. It's somebody who said once KGB, always KGB. No former KGB agents who brought immediately the Soviet anthem back as president of Russia and started the war in Chechnya. And this is apartment bombings, with too many questions unanswered. Immediately going after free television. That was 2001 already. But it just
nobody was carrying at that
point. But then you had other things. You had 2005, the collapse of the Soviet Union was the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century, quote unquote, Putin. 2007, Munich Security Conference, telling the Western leaders go back to 1997 borders. Eastern Europe, not Ukraine. Eastern Europe is a sphere of Russian influence. So let's go back to Yalta 1945. So it was, it's not me, it was him. And then 2008, Republic of Georgia, open naked aggression. What Europe did, they tried to find an excuse not to blame Putin and say, maybe Saakashvili did something wrong. It reminded me of the 1939 when Stalin attacked Finland and the Finnish, military tried to take over, Leningrad. So same story, but this time European Union seriously spent, weeks and months of investigation to come up with the verdict that, it's hard to blame one side. This something was wrong on, So Putin, fine. He took it as the invitation for further attacks. And of course, Obama's inaction in Syria and especially, annexation of Crimea that basically, there was a 6 months, maybe 1 year of Putin being excluded, or just, treated as a pariah, then back to normal. Nothing. Back to normal. So up to 2021, the free world treated Putin as the legitimate leader. And he kept building, his war machine and also his operation around the world. Now we could see, just how deep, the Putin's operation, hybrid war, influenced the free world. So he had, open, supporters, politicians that he bought, like Schroeder. He had a massive following among various political groups, mostly far right, far left. So, and you could see Putin's choir, political choir in almost every country. And he was even arrogant enough to go after America's elections. So, and he's a most dangerous criminal, bloodthirsty criminal, but you cannot blame him for being secretive. He prepared his war against Ukraine openly. Just, he brought 200,000 troops, surrounded Ukraine from the north, east, and south, brought part of his Pacific fleet to the Black Sea. Yeah. And so everybody thought, oh, maybe, no, maybe he's trying to negotiate, just to strengthen his bargaining position. He just, for 8 years since the annexation of Crimea, Putin's propaganda kept talking about Ukraine being a failed state. Ukrainian nation, there was not recognized as a nation. It's, like a bad Russian. So that's we have to bring them back to Mother Russia. So they have been saying it openly. So it's not again. I didn't have to invent things. You just simply follow just the propaganda. And that's made me really angry, because for so many years, we had opportunities to prevent this tragedy by simply believing Putin. It's believing to what he and his propaganda have been saying. And also there were actions. Again, it's every time, that they saw that there was no reaction to Putin's moves. So they made the next move. That's why I say the dictators never ask why, but why not? And now, of course, situation changed, because the West, the free world. When I say West, okay, you still have Japan, Australia, South Korea. I mean, democracy spread around the world, but mostly it's still the West is not geography. The West is more ideological term these days. Yeah. It's quite ironic that in one of my favorite, books, Lord of the Rings, it's also West and East. So the West is free people. I don't know whether it was done on purpose, but it's yes, exactly. And East is Mordor. Yes. Yeah. No, it's now, the West is engaged, helping Ukraine. But let's not forget, this engagement was a result of the heroic defense of Kyiv. If, God forbid, Putin had succeeded taking over Kyiv in February 2022, I don't think there would be any real, intervention of the West. They would be probably trying to save pieces of Ukraine, and they would be negotiating with Putin's puppet government. Maybe there would be Zelensky government in exile if he would survive Putin's takeover of Kyiv, because I think he was a target. I think that's most likely will be eliminated. Him, his government, even his family. So I can see, Americans and Germans, swallowing their pride and sitting with Medvedchuk, Yanukovych government. And so what can we do? But Ukrainian resistance and success of defending Kyiv, and Zelensky's outstanding performance, because he is now clearly the spiritual leader of the free world. So the West had to respond, because the public, all of a sudden, that's not right to let Putin winning this war, and the free world now is fully engaged. Again, mysterious or not, but it's always democracy is always mobilized resources at the very last stand. And now you obviously follow my Twitter. My complaints about Americans and Europeans, especially about Americans, is not about the commitment, but it's about the timing of the commitment. Clearly, Americans and Europeans committed to Ukrainian victory. They are committed to help Ukraine liberate the whole this is Ukraine, including Crimea and Sevastopol. But they have different timing due to their own political calculations.
You are receiving a lot of questions about the war here in Romania, maybe. Also because
You're close, you're the border.
Yes.
Also because you are the border. What do you think about the danger Romania is in, and if you think that our country may be in a war scenario, maybe dragged in a conflict or something like this because of this geological position?
Look, everybody was at great danger in February 2022. Romania, Poland, of course, Baltic nations, in grave danger. Now not, because Putin's army is devastating Ukraine. Thanks to Ukrainian heroic resistance and huge sacrifices, nobody's in danger now, because Putin's armies, they tighten Ukraine, and I don't know, half of his military potential, if not more, has been now destroyed by Ukrainians. So again, at huge cost. We don't know how many Ukrainians have been killed. I mean, it's just this. We don't know the exact numbers, but we're probably talking about this number that is already exceeded 100,000. So again, to be fully, analyzed, when the war is over. But we can definitely see that half of Ukraine now has been devastated. It's demolished. So the amount of firepower used in Ukraine is probably unseen in the world. So we thought about wars of 21st century is very, very, the computer war, drones. Yeah, there are many drones there, but it's the war is, it somehow reminds World War I, not World War II, with trenches. I don't know how this is. It's the trenches now. It's 2,000 kilometers from Crimea to northern Ukraine, and the firepower, artillery. It's tens of thousands of shells every day. So it's a very different kind of war, and obviously Russians, Putin's armies, they violate every conduct, every rule of the quote unquote civilized war. They're not just simply targeting civilians. They're bragging about it. Every day Russian television say, "Oh, we hit another power station, another hospital." They don't even pretend that they aimed at military barracks. So they attack civilians, and that's their strategy. Since they couldn't win the war on the battlefield, they just want to terrorize Ukrainians, and they want, I believe, out-suffer Ukrainians. Putin doesn't care about Russian sacrifices, Russian soldiers being killed. So, and he believes that, he has enough manpower and also enough money to move forward. By the way, speaking about his financial resources, yeah, he has less money than he had, but he still has enough. Yes. He's still selling oil. Yeah, with all the sanctions. Yes, it keeps reducing his financial abilities, and obviously Russia cannot continue forever. Maybe a year, maybe two. I mean, I think we're talking about something very limited period of time, but he still sells oil. Russia has not been blocked completely by the Western sanctions.
Do you think that only by the death of Putin this war would end? Is that the only solution?
As long as Putin stays in power, the war continues. But while I'm not here to speculate about his death and the circumstances of his death, the way to end the war is for Ukraine to liberate her territory. So that's why we should not the order of moves. So we have to make sure that Ukraine wins the war, and the victory of Ukraine includes liberation of the full territory, reparations being paid, and war criminals brought to justice. If these conditions are met, Putin doesn't stay in power. So the number one move is liberation of Ukraine. I believe that Ukrainian flag in Sevastopol is the beginning of the end of Putin's regime, because Putin's dictatorship is built, as every dictatorship, on the myth. And Crimea is the heart of this myth. So you take Crimea away, the regime doesn't function. Because dictator has to demonstrate to power, and he must be successful. If he's a failure, he cannot rule his people.
How about the Russian people? How they stay under,
the question
how they accept the propaganda? Because like you said, they are bragging about killing civilians.
Look, but this is it's 23 years, yeah? So, don't forget, Germans fought in 1945 until the last bunker, in Berlin. and Dr. Goebbels didn't have the same technology, and Hitler was in power for 12 years. Putin is in power twice as long. So, and the propaganda is far more powerful. So that's exactly, it's tough, you know, the question is the way they present it. Yes, they say they're bragging about killing civilians, but it's a part of the war against corrupt West, against NATO, because it's not a war against Ukraine, it's a war against NATO. And that's what they say. Again, so NATO can say, oh, we're not at war with Putin. Maybe you are not, but he is at war with you. So that's, and unfortunately, you know, many Russians reach the point where they just, it's a casualties of war. The way to actually to remove the spell from the minds of all the Russians is to demonstrate that the war is being lost. Because we know from history, the moment the war is going, exactly, the war is being lost. And the moment Ukrainian troops, you know, cross into Crimea, in the Crimean Peninsula, you will, Russian history is, if history is any guide, you know, it clearly demonstrates that the moment that the war looks like a losing proposition, there's a revolt and even a revolution. So that's why we just have to combine, you know, this economic pressure with Ukrainian military success. That's why I'm so irritated by the fact that the supply of crucial weapons to Ukraine is not as speedy as we wish.
Personally, for you, as a man who travels a lot, with your free speech, with you say what you think, and not many people say these things on TV everywhere. It is difficult for you to know you have to look over your shoulder to be safe, to keep yourself safe.
Yeah. First of all, I don't travel a lot. I mean, I travel a lot, but to very limited destinations. Yeah. So it's no longer, you know, days where I travel to Africa or Asia. So the countries I visit, they are just, you know, the number is limited for obvious reason. For instance, I wouldn't go to Hungary. So I dropped a couple of offers to do lectures in Budapest, simply because I don't trust Orban government being, you know, protective over my safety. Yeah. Not just arresting me, but just basically looking the other way. So I wouldn't go to Turkey, of course, you know, and most of the places. So is it dangerous? Yes. But I'm here, Navalny is in jail. Boris Nemtsov is dead. So how can I just, you know, pretend that, you know, this sitting here in Bucharest with you is, yeah, if I go to big events, I ask some security, but in New York, I walk on my own. So that's the problem is, you know, it's if you do something which you believe is right, so then you have to accept the consequences. And I always say, would it help? So worrying about it, would it help if I just, you know, if I start, you know, just limiting my life by not going here and there? Again, I try to be relatively cautious. As I said, I don't drink tea with strangers. But I also understand that, you know, it's a part of the game. Yeah. And especially now when you have so many people, you know, just in jail in Russia, political prisoners, and people being killed in Ukraine, should I start, you know, worrying, that's just, you know, that's too dangerous. I've been saying it for ages, and I'm not going to slow down now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you.